So we got some testing. I was doing a motherboarding, taking notes, and trying to create a structure where in inner circle, I'm putting in like opening questions or topic starters, and in outer circle, like this discussion where it's flowing out and who are like taking this conversation forward. And at the start, we had the interesting idea about betting systems and how could we use them for the assessments. We might come later back to that. And then we called out what kind of proposals we would like to share about what we are doing here and what is Cardano or Catalyst doing in general. So Kenrich shared his T funding and new proposals, which like T funding proposals which got funded, and now some improvements to these proposals from Catalyst regarding risks. So more research can be found here. If anybody has questions, we can go later back to that too. And finally, we are reaching out to Javid Mohseni, who's sharing about his journey into this blockchain and the businesses he's having. And one proposal related to that, or actually several, related to cannabis work and the like things what needs to be done and how he works with governance. From that discussion, I had a question. How are you providing that infrastructure? Is your business like a service which creates the tooling, or you more like a documentation outside, or like full service, like whatever needs to be done, you do that basically?
Yeah, thank you for the clarifying question. When we started, we wanted to really learn and understand what the challenges were for the operator, right? The licensed operator. Brand new industry, literally created out of prohibition ending. So we got real close when we worked in the field, literally from seed to sale, understanding what each licensed operator was dealing with in the supply chain. From there, the business, the idea and the seed was to create the foundation, the guide rails, so to speak, the trading infrastructure, the tools, like you were saying, like how and what are people needing to have and use so they can more effectively grow and develop their businesses within the space. So we created a marketplace with brokerage services that really allowed people to start buying and selling. We also created a grading application, because third-party quality verification using common language, so everybody understands what we're talking about because we're using the same way to describe things, that also had to be created. So we created that, but then we put it into a grading app, and the idea there is to empower not only third-party quality verified graders, but also the individual licensed operators can start using that language to standardize how they present their material. All of this came about, these solutions came about because when we were selling, buying and selling weed as broker and marketplace, the transactions kept breaking. And they kept breaking because there was no common language. You could literally put the same bag of weed in front of 5 different people. Some of them had 30 years in the industry. Some of them were new. Everybody talked about the product differently. So as soon as we identified what was breaking the transaction, then we were able to create solutions for that. And that really is the cornerstone and foundation of what we've done. And then the other side now is what we've been doing over the last year and a half, is we've been taking all of this manual created business and business processes, and we've been moving them into technology applications, technology platforms, technology processes where things can become more automated, decentralized, and we can start deploying these things into the industry so people can leverage and use them to help build their own businesses with or without our companies. Our goal isn't to be the only biggest cannabis marketplace or biggest grading company in the world. We're saying, hey, for 7 years, we've Rubik's Cube these problems of the supply chain that stops transactions from being efficient and effective, which ultimately break your businesses and make it harder to grow. Here are a bunch of tools that the community can use to bolster their business and you know, raise the tide for all ships.
That's cool. And so what more closely is this proposal asking funds to create integration to the Cardano blockchain and like store some kind of information, create a side chain, or how that funds gonna be used?
The three funds, one of them is really creating the listing service. So if you think about it from a real estate point of view, where all the inflow of listings flow into one central data, not central, but open database where stakeholders from around the world can put their products. So all buyers or all the entire network can see what people have. Now, based on regulation, legal regulation from state to state or country to country, that will really determine if trade can happen. But marketplaces can then connect to the CLS. We call it the CLS, the Cannabis Listing Service. Third-party brokers, anybody who wants to engage that is allowed legally to engage will be able to connect to that. And that information is going to be stored on the Cardano blockchain, right? So now we have this immutable ledger. So you can track product provenance, you know it's not fakes, and you know, depending on how that information is presented to the consumer, and that's, you know, that's another solution that we're working on, is another one of our proposals, is that will translate to consumer packaging, but it will also translate to all the transactions from the time the product is grown all the way to it gets on a package. So, you know, like when we buy a product and, you know, we're looking at the labels of what's on it or what's not on it, USDA organic for people in America, or bio. I think it's the green bio leaf in Europe, right? That it's non-GMO project and it hasn't been messed with. Consumers with cannabis want to see that too. So that's one of our other proposals that Tamerlan is putting forth. And that is really creating Cardano NFTs, where the data and the information is it connects to each transaction, but then when the consumer gets it, yes, it is a verification that the cannabis is what they think it is, and they know what they're buying, but it also can empower the brand, it can empower the grower, and it can really give back the credibility and the reference to the grower that's producing this great cannabis or this great medicine, you know, depending on what people are looking at it. And then the third one we have is a grading app. It's completing the grading app. So we created the first version of the grading app and we've been field testing it. Now it's a matter of connecting that grading app to the blockchain and decentralizing the technology so anybody can use it, right? And being able to deploy it. So once we finish this next phase of the grading app, expecting everything works the way that we're building it out, we should be able to deploy it globally. So literally people around the world will be able to grade their cannabis according to a common language. And then that can also be a tool to upload and connect to the CLS that I was talking about. The CLS then having that repository of all of the information of buyers and sellers that want to trade, that information can then be turned into Cardano NFTs, and the transactional data as well as the qualitative data will move through the supply chain all the way to the finished product for the consumer to actually know what they're buying and be able to have a repeatable experience with whatever cannabis that they connect with. Thank you for asking the question.
These are great questions. Tevo is being a champion right now. I don't know if you guys are watching this. Holy, Tevo is just like, he's on another level, people. Holy cannoli.
Miro mastery.
Jeez, dropping bombs. I mean, are your fingers moving? I can't, he's just, is he, I don't know, does he have another Tevo somewhere?
No.
I do appreciate you. And I want to sort of, widen the conversation and maybe bring some other people in, because the supply chain issue and the intellectual property rights, I think are universal things. And I'm sure there's some people here in the chat here on the call that have something to say about it. I think it's a great use case, and then it really can be, the catalyst that sort of builds a killer app, because supply chain management is an important thing. And the same with the intellectual property rights. I know all the seed, for instance, in the cannabis industry, the people making the strains go to a lot of trouble to brand and get things together. And then when there's just anybody can do a knockoff, and they stamp the latest strain name on the package, and have the consumer doesn't know, and yeah. So yeah, just those ideas. And I wonder if anybody has got, I know that there's a proposal for like a garment supply chain, with the NFT. And I remember there was one about like food supply chain. Any other supply chain people here?
Well, I'm not a supply chain person, but I know that the coffee industry has already taken steps there, primarily probably in Ethereum space. But coffee has almost the same, not quite, almost the same characteristics as cannabis, and a little bit different than wine. But coffee is another supply chain use. So supply chain uses for blockchain I think are proven.
Can I ask, JV, is the thing you're building do fulfillment for business to customer?
Can you repeat that? What was that?
Does the thing you're building handle fulfillment for business to customer?
It does, from the standpoint of creating the transaction between bulk wholesale buyers and sellers. What we've built so far and the next steps in front of us, they don't consider delivery or fulfillment to the end user, just because of the legal regulation from state to state is so different. So the focus really has been from the producer side up into the dispensary. And once the supply chain there is organized and it's transparent, and we've got clear product provenance, where we're protecting, like Newman was saying, the IP of the grower, because they put in so much time and energy to these genetics. What we believe will happen is, once, like California has delivery service, right? So there we'll be able to, or people will be able to build things and connect them into these trading guide rails or these trading infrastructure to connect it and empower any of the consumer groups, any buyer groups. I don't know if I answered your question completely.
Yeah, no, perfectly. What was the name of the thing you were building? I didn't catch the name you originally said.
Oh yeah, so the excuse me, the proposal names, one of them is Cannabis and Hemp Grading App. Another one is Supply Chain for Legal Cannabis. And the other one is Cannabis Listing Service.
That's like the first one I saw when I signed on this round.
Right on. It was a really good and interesting experience getting involved with Catalyst, and I love this. It's like Newman was saying, like TiVo is killing this, and being able to visualize the conversation and then take this to a bigger level to the community, because so much of cannabis comes from community, and to find another blockchain community where people are interested in helping one another and collaborating. I was new to the cannabis industry when I moved back from Europe and I got back home. I'm born and raised in Seattle. But, when I got into the cannabis community, it was very welcoming and everybody was very open. I have friends that were legacy, but I really focused on doing international trade and business for 20 years. So when I moved back to Seattle and got involved in cannabis when it legalized, the community side of it was amazing. And I got to spend, 3 years every single day at someone's farm or someone's production facility. And these guys were just sharing. And I found the same thing was happening here in Catalyst and with Cardano. it's just nice to be in that environment, you know, the community environment where people are supportive rather than trying to, I don't know, work an angle. So I appreciate you all.
Absolutely. If we can, I want to switch gears on you guys up to RealFi and to legacy server integration and the proposal that I put up there to solve that problem. You can't put a Raspberry Pi in a data center. You real proper equipment.
You're talking about these sidechains, this up top.
Yep.
Tell us more.
Essentially, I'm trying to build a decentralized AI system out of NVIDIA DGX A100s to integrate with legacy server architecture that wouldn't. Basically, this system, these nodes integrate with any type of server architecture out there. So even like down to Swift, it wouldn't be an issue with integration. And going from DeFi to centralized finance, the legacy system, you need a almost a centralized entity to do so, but with a decentralized AI, it wouldn't be centralized, and it would be not for profit as well.
Do you have the application to collect that data and like distribute it, or you already want to integrate with some existing tools?
Yeah, this is simply for the hardware to do so. The proposal.
Hey, Drake.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm non-technical, I don't have a very big depth. Could you explain the problem? I can read your problem statement. It just says Cardano needs a cutting edge layer 2 data solution that will handle large volumes of and high rates of irregular and complex data. Can you give me some context? Like, is this has to do with infrastructure and the SBO sort of network?
Yes.
That gives me hopefully that helps you to sort of see where I'm coming from as an assessor and a voter.
Basically, when it comes to like payment services integrations or things like that, we need to have to reduce latency. We need to have these server architectures in major data centers. But unfortunately, you can't put a Raspberry Pi in a data center. We need powerful equipment such as this.
It's unclear who is your partner. Well, like, because if you don't have the data yourself, you're gonna use it for. I am not aware like who needs that kind of load in order to use that data service, because right now all I see is that you're setting up the data service for people to have that no latency place where they can get that information. But
this particular proposal is just for the hardware. I have another set of proposals that I've been trying to push through since Fund 3. This and DeFi CeFi, which was community. I put in for community choice in Fund 3. It's just the physical hardware in order to accomplish these goals.
All right, I'm in this now, Drake. So hey, thanks for taking the time and thanks for shouting out your proposal. So what is it how is it done right now? Is our network just on Raspberry Pis, or do we have some of these super duper? Go ahead.
It's not done right now because Hydra isn't fully launched, and there hasn't been any like legacy integration outside of a centralized authority like Celsius or some shit. As I said, but
Celsius,
again,
yeah, right on.
This is a decentralized AI system, so it's not going to be The protocols are going to be set. It's going to be closed. There's not going to be human involvement. It's a matter of taking the human hand out.
Drake, when you say two things, you said this is just for the hardware, and you talk about AI. What's the AI part of this, and is that part of the proposal or not part of the proposal?
Well, it's not AI services. It's like an AI workload. It's these machines are able to to basically to integrate into legacy server systems that you would have to have specialized equipment to do so. And other, if you were to, like, say, if you wanted to interact directly with a Swift server, you would need their architecture. But this will basically umbrella all the legacy server architecture.
And creating that software component, the AI, is part of your machine, or no, you just say that it'll have to have that software component?
Well, it's an AI machine. It's a micro data center.
Okay.
And who,
If
like,
it-
the question is who in that microserver, what application is running and who created that?
Applications will be built on top of it. The initial application that I had proposed was InExchange, which was a DEX hybrid with a payment services integration using collateral accounting and a financial custodian to basically allow ADA to be spent like cash with a point of sale debit.
Have you talked to Cody at all? Because they're all about payment systems.
I have not. In fact, right after, I want to say after Fund 3 or Fund 4, they made mention of there being a possibility of a layer 2 solution, but it hadn't been fully explored yet. I, again, have not really been able to get as much traction as I'd hoped.
I mean, first of all, figure out what Cody does, and if it's relevant, they're pretty open about doing things.
Yeah, the payment services integration, the DEX hybrid InExchange, is basically trying to circumvent having to use ADA Pay to begin with. Basically allowing a user to, with a point of sale debit, to spend their to live spend their ADA using a collateral accounting method.
Yeah, actually, Cody has its own currency. The connection with Cardano is through JED, but actually all of their systems use a different currency and a different the DAG system. I just mentioned it because you're talking about integrating payment systems, and that's Cody's kind of business. Right now, they work with a company called Simplex, which is, and I'm not exactly sure what the boundaries are, but Simplex is they convert fiat to fiat to crypto back to fiat, and Cody doesn't do that, but they work with Simplex, even though their whiteboards suggest they do it. They in discussions with us, they said they didn't. At any rate, you talk about Swift and things like that. So I mentioned it, Cody. Check into them. They seem to be reasonably open guys.
I'll definitely reach out. I don't know if there is any conflict of interest with them working with unfunded proposers. I'd asked Ben Gersel to help me train this system. We're friends on Discord. He hasn't given me a reply, and I'm assuming it's because there's a conflict of interest with him involving himself with an unfunded proposer.
We're talking to them. Okay, we're a funded proposal. What I'm saying is that I don't know that conceptually or technically what you're proposing works with them, but they're entrepreneurial, and if you need, I can send you some links to the people that do their business development, and you can reach out. I don't think there's any harm.
Definitely, please do.
They'll say no.
Yeah, please send me whatever you have, man. I appreciate it very much.
Drake, are you on Telegram?
I am not, but I'm on Discord at Spiritus Tellerus Rex.
Hang on, easier for me to find the link and put it in chat here. Let me kind of go look around for the link.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, likewise, Drake. That's an incredible, like, I don't know that much at all about the AI or the hardware, you know, like in the Matrix down in Zeb, you know, what is it? Oh, and the underground city of Zion, where they go down and see all the machines. It's something I don't deal with very often, so it's cool to get a little glimpse. I appreciate you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks for hearing me out, my friends.
Drake, I wanted to ask, do you have like your initial use case or proof of concept that will demonstrate what this network can do? I know others exist, but usually it's good to launch something with like something that shows what it does well, so people can relate to it, as opposed to just being an abstract, like, you know, cluster of computation.
Well, initially it's going to run the Ouroboros consensus protocol, and it'll use Hydra to take care of off-chain activity.
Yeah, that's exactly what that's. I think it.
Yo, Drake. So the proposal is for setting up a server, right? Or setting up the machine to do more stuff on layer 2 Hydra sidechain. I don't know enough about Hydra, to be honest, right? But do you have a plan of what to do with this stuff, with the machine after? Like you mentioned AI, is there like the training data involved, right? You need training data on AI. I made the mistake of pitching AI to people in the past, like, yeah, we want to build AI. And then like, how much training data you have? Well, we have maybe 30,000. And like, get out of here. You're muted.
With the purchase of the equipment, comes a bunch of pre-trained models that NVIDIA already has, plus they allow access to their engineers. And hopefully once, if funded, I'll be on the cohort side and be able to get a definitive answer from Ben. Like, he hasn't told me no, but he hasn't given me a yes either, but we're friends on Discord, so it is what it is.
Gotcha. Pre-trained models are good, but if you want to like build something that is not just plug and play solution, right? But you want to actually like call it AI, I would suggest to look into answering that question, right? And you don't have to do it now because clearly you're just asking for a server, right? Just 2 cents, brother. I want to
appreciate you.
I remember you said you've been here, you're an OG, and you know, let's get you funded.
And again, this is just for the hardware. And the goal is to ask the amount of 1 unit and hodl till the price is $3, and then sell and then buy 6 units.
How much are you asking for, by the way?
They retail at 200,000. I'm not asking for anything personally. I'm just asking to get this money to set it aside for the network.
Got it.
I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't vote on you because that is a huge amount of budget without knowing how is that actually being pulled, because in the proposal, you don't have that information we're asking you here now. And that's quite a huge amount of just to pull an infrastructure. Maybe if we could have like a process map when what AI services and partnerships you have been collected, and some like basically a huge list of them is already enough. And I think some kind of mapping of because you need just like more than, I don't know, few AIs which are basically somebody else made, and you could not clearly clear are there gonna be these ones on this infrastructure you want to set up? So yeah, it's like, I don't know, too much to give for too vague partners. And
well, if we don't do it, then a corporation is going to come in and do it themselves, and it's not going to be community, and it's not going to be not for profit. So it is what it is.
but community is coming up here. Texas have been funded, and probably they have now the data, the SunDes, the Muslis Web, all these. They're now collecting the data. We actually have some of them, like most of that information is on Oracles and on Open Blockchain. So those people who just set up their Raspberry Pis you talked about before, they will have the first use cases to demonstrate what these dashboards, what are these calculations could do, and use the existing work to prove how could, why would you need that infrastructure, and where it actually exactly is spent to. Because right now you make a proposal where I have to ask way too many questions before we can go into like, okay, now we go. Now we have this like, who is the buyer, who is the ones who are going to use the AI, who are going to create AI, and such else. Hello, Zoe.
Hey, hey.
Anyway, we want to circle back as new people joined, and I would like to discuss a bit about this betting system with larger audience. So before we had Len introduced an idea of like, we have an opportunity to make a betting system for assessment. So when you see an assessment coming in, and you have to rate it as filter out, good, or excellent. So there are people who do it before by putting ADA into it. And like, I bet, let's say 10 ADA that this is gonna be excellent. Or then some people put like 20 ADA, this is good. And then use that, and then maybe set aside from Treasury that each of these bets are rewarded like $10 for the ones who got it right, plus the like losing amounts when you bet wrong from the other persons. And this could be a signal, which has like a financial signal, what people predict for these assessments, and could be used as an alternative way to measure our assessments. Anybody wants to share some thoughts or risks what come up in mind?
Is that as a additional kind of thing, or for the VPA structure?
That is an additional thing for VCA structure, yes.
This is the hypothetical.
Yeah. Just okay. So it would be an alternative of the VCA process, and not.
That would be actually not alternative, but additional thing. So people still will do the good, excellent, and filtering out, but there is another part of people who are doing a betting based on their assumption what it should be, and putting like a bet down for that. But skin in the game that this, yes, I'm financially willing to risk that this is an excellent. This gives opportunity to game it, but then again, if we keep the like rewards from treasuries very small, then the people who are gonna play that game are going to give them like a good direction for achieving like accuracy in the when you're doing the proposal assessment.
I still think that it could lead to gaming that would be counterproductive towards the voting system, basically because people don't want to lose the money that they're betting, and it may be less about the proposal and more about what they've got in on it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but how is that less about the proposal? Okay, so it's less more about the assessor. But he is still, if the person who is betting now is now measuring and analyzing how the assessor is doing, not don't care about proposals at all, he still will look at the proposal to make sure that there is no mistakes by assessor, because if there is a mistake by an assessor, like saying, hey, you have no timeline, which is like a common thing what happened in few months ago, people just copy pasted assessments into which were not true about the proposal, and if they bet now, like they bet on this thing that it's excellent or good, but it gets filtered out, it's still like, even if it's not helping proposal, it's still signaling what seems to be the money-based like measurement, where financially people are willing to agree on.
And then you also have the potential of proposers making bets and leaving bad reviews in order to make sure to hedge their bet, so to speak. But it's all hypothetical. I'm just talking nonsense.
Wouldn't that lead to some conflict of interest? Are we talking about betting on proposals?
Yeah, I don't gamble anyway, so I'm just
yeah,
talking.
we have to
Would be
change
cool,
the wording into just call it as the new measurement of like financial measurement. But yeah, it's still kind of betting because it's what it does. But I don't know. Yeah. How do you make
what?
it more fancy?
Yeah, I think I don't know about the betting itself, but the analytics behind the betting would be super interesting to see. Right? Why is one proposal, one team rated, more likely, less likely, and so on. And that can be also part of the CA process, right? As the analytics for the CAs or PAs.
That's it. That is a PA analysis, because you can already find these results before assessments are graded by veteran community advisors, because it's a prediction market, basically what's happening here.
Yeah, I was thinking that, first of all, I just brought this up as the basic element of an idea without any really serious analysis. But my thinking was this is in parallel to the proposal, assessors, and just can be done anytime from the time the proposal is posted. And it offers voters to do something, to do some prediction before going through the assessment process, or in lieu of going through the assessment process. What I also kind of commented before is I just started doing assessments, and I had done in Fund 8 in previous funds, and it just dawned on me, it's like arduous to do assessments. If you really want to do it, you have to really pay attention. And so that takes, let's say, more commitment. And even with the goal of 5 assessments per proposal or whatever, and I think the average was 15 assessments per assessor last fund, this would open it up just as signaling. And yes, can be gamified and whatever. I don't think that there's big money to be made at this, especially if the share price is low enough, and it's just for signaling. That's all.
But it's right that it's about the you would bet on the assessments, not on the proposals, right?
No. I mean, you could. First of all, I don't know, but my original idea was the outcome of the funding. In other words, this proposal is funded or this proposal is not funded. Has nothing to do with the assessments because you won't see the assessments until they're over. Let's say the normal voter. I can't see your assessment, you can't see my assessment. So we don't know each other's assessments. But it's just a question on the proposal. And for example, I think Tivo, you said there's a major flaw in the proposal. That it doesn't have a timeline or doesn't have a budget or something like that. That would signal to people, this one can't be funded because it has a major flaw. I'll bet against it.
Yeah, that could be. I wonder if this is a betting system, if we use only like people feedback, like voting, basically, because it's a voting thing. And reward is you get gimbals if you voted right, and if you didn't, you don't get gimbals. Or maybe they still would have to put that down, and that would, okay, never mind. I've already failed that. Because we don't have to do it with financial value at start, just to already capture analytics of that kind of.
Yeah, I think the one element is that making bets or prediction engines are based on somebody placing money where their mouth is, whether it's a lot of money or little money. But you're actually, and Zoe, before you joined, we were talking, or I made the point, is that currently the voting system is with other people's money. $50,000, okay, we'll approve it. 12,000, we'll approve it. 100,000, maybe not. And it's other people's money. So voters don't really have so much connection with the money.
Good point.
I think we're trying to rebuild the CA and the voting, right? You're right, Len. People are not betting with their own money. If you want to do the betting, probably just make it into like a crowdfunding platform, right, where people can actually donate themselves their own money, and based on how much money projects have raised, probably you can see the feasibility and likely the impact because of the size of the community. However, what that takes me to is, what if you have projects that are new to the community, don't have huge communities? Are we gonna, by default, exclude them from winning or from the betting system, right? So it has a lot of implications on, inclusion, diversity, and bias.
Then it's pretty much voluntary, and I want to stay away from crowdfunding because that's kind of connecting you much at a bigger number to the outcome of the project, not the voting. The idea is that this is just parallel to the existing system, not to replace it or whatever, just parallel to. And the way the prediction engine works is there's a market maker, somebody. It could be the proposer, it could be somebody else. And that market maker is the one, he's like the bank, the house. And he's keeping track of it, and he or she at the end of the period says funded or not funded, meaning whatever, and that's the outcome. And those who bet for funding get whatever bets those who bet against it had committed.
Here's what would be actually quite interesting, because we lack a lot of return on investment right after projects get funded, and Catalyst is one huge bet, right? If project gets funded, means community bets on that project, right? But what happens after it gets funded? Do actually people bet? Can people bet on return on intent or successful delivery of the project?
I doubt it, because it's so subjective and there's so many different. It's kind of like, in my view, it's kind of like one of those graveyard of proposals. There's 1,000 proposals that are funded, or so, and 80 have been completed, something like that. Those are embarrassing statistics. And so it's a graveyard of funded proposals in which by those numbers, nothing ever happens. So I don't think you can deal with the outcome. I think you can only deal with the funding.
And that's what makes the betting system so lucrative. There's a lot of losers and maybe one winner. And if there is a winner, then they win big, right? It's almost like a lottery.
Yeah, but again, my thinking is not to make money as so much as to express your. Okay, you can vote yes or no, and if you happen to have a lot of 80, your vote is more powerful. But there's not an intensity of your commitment, and so something like this would allow people to express the intensity of their support as well. I don't know. I'm not advocating. I just came up. I mean, I read Jan Muller's proposal on prediction engines, and I recommend that anybody do that. It's in the DApps, and this idea came out of it. That's as far as I'm involved.
Just a last comment. Sorry, Sebastian, Zoe. To express one's intensity of preference, I'm gonna post a link in the chat about quadratic voting. Thank you, guys.
Yes, I think that this thing of the money is very curious because I agree with Len, for example. I agree with this thing of the free money in general, this idea of free money. But I feel in Catalyst there is a sense of honor and commitment that there is no in other markets in general. It's very rare that condition in the markets outside of Catalyst, but I don't know why. I think that people that request funds has a real purpose behind, and I think we are in a framework where people honor their commitments, and maybe it's a new framework of work in which the money is not a factor. The money is not or it's a different variable in general.
Zoe, pardon me for displacing you right now, just to respond. There were proposals in Fund 8, 70 proposals asking for $1 million, all to be done in the same period of time by the same people, 30 proposals asking for $1 million, all to be done. I mean, I'm sorry, the system, Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, Fund 4, Fund 5, mostly honorable issues. Right now, I think everybody, look how many proposals people put in, 10 proposals, yes, asking for $700,000 total, whatever. I mean, I think that honor still remains among the core people who are committed, but this, free money attracts scams.
Yes.
Very simple, very simple.
Yeah, that's real.
I've been proposing the same project for a year, man.
I am trying to say that we are cleaning the parameters of the equation. In the equation, having the reality in general, but there is a component of responsibility in Catalyst in general that enhance the process of give money to others to productive things. I think it's only my opinion.
Zoe, we were cutting you off. Please, your point.
Hey, no worries. I just thought that this betting system, and I hear you that it's just an idea and not totally serious, but I firstly understood it as betting on the assessments, and I think that would be actually quite cool, because the proposals, I'm not sure whether I would kind of bet on that, because yeah, I don't know, just because it's dependent on so many factors. But with the betting thing on assessments, you could kind of incentivize people to actually read several assessments. The only problem is this would need to be happening during VPA stage, so the bettors would read them at the same time as the VCAs read them, of course. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say is I don't feel that like it is totally free money. Maybe for somebody who has a lot of ADA and then votes and maybe on 3 proposals and they already get quite yeah, an incentivization. That I see as kind of free money, but for proposers, it's hard work. It's not, I don't mean it like hard work in the way of working 20 years for it, but yeah, I don't know. It's so, yeah, I do feel that it's difficult to just be a proposer. And
Zoe, if you're working for 1 week or 2 weeks full time for a proposal that's asking for $200,000 or $400,000, that's a pretty good job.
But it's the purpose of Catalyst, and I mean they don't just get this money and it's then in their wallet and they can run off and not deliver shit. They will have these report thingies, and it's
Zoe. So again,
yeah.
Zoe, is that the current system right now, most proposals in the past funds are 3-month proposals, 3-month completion. There's some longer ones, but most are 3 months. And to get that money, let's say $100,000, to get that money, you have to, at the end of the first month, you have to put a report in that says, yep, we're getting started. You get $25,000. Then you put at the end of the second month, you said, we're going strong, everything's going good, and you get $50,000 cumulative. And at the third month, you put in another one saying, having a little problem, but you still get $25,000. And so you got $75,000 for writing 3 bogus reports in 3 months. And the last 25%, never mind, you got $75,000.
Okay, and what about people that are not building a company, but just making some projects that are inside of Catalyst and for the community, and they rely on the funding alone?
Well, but I'm saying they don't have to do something.
That's stressful, dude. That's pressure.
They don't have to do anything. I'm saying there are those who.
Yeah, true.
We're not talking about the honest players. We're talking about the system is already pretty loosey-goosey. It's not my money, because if you don't care about reputation, and you can always change your ideal scale account, you can put in a proposal that's, you spend a week or 2 weeks to write a really fantastic proposal, and then over 3 months you get 75% of that money. The last 25%, forget it, and you're happy. There is no penalty. There is no audit. There is no system that says, are you really doing something? It's a 1-page form that says, are you proceeding? Yep, I'm proceeding. And if you, on the last one, I'm having some problems. That's all you have to put in. That's the report. That's the audit. And there's nobody evaluating it. There's nobody that you have to answer to. The challenge team doesn't, you don't have to answer the challenge team. So I'm saying the system right now, for those people, for those people who are not serious, it's a free money.
If they get funded, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to ready.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I wonder how much there is that, like, is it like 1 million total? Because that's a lot of proposals who did not get funded and could done something. But to you, Nin.
I want to hear what Kenrick has to say first.
Oh, well, okay. So I'm just gonna. Well, my question, like, I understand. Is it Len? Am I saying the name right?
Yes, correct.
I understand the concern, and that's a legitimate concern. But I'm also curious whether you have specific examples of projects that you feel are conducting themselves in this way.
Kendrick, the stats that Charles referred to just the other day, 1,000 funded proposals, 80 completed. I'm sorry, that's too big of a difference. If it was
Yeah, well,
1,500, it's 1,080 proposals completed. What about 920 proposals since Fund 2? Where are they?
So that's a good question. And Chris had a partial answer at Town Hall that if you look at how the Catalyst grew over last year, the Funds 2 and 3 were pretty small. And so they're just ramping up on projects finishing. And so they crossed, I think, 120 this week. You know, so like you're saying, 2 weeks ago, Charles reported 80, now it's 120. And so there is an expectation that the number of completed projects over the next, say, 3 to 6 months is going to ramp up quite a bit. And we should follow through and see if that actually happens. I think the other side of it, though, because, you know, I'm very conscious of needing to be kind of critical of our processes. But the other thing that's impressed me is that by building kind of a process of trust, they do open themselves up to scams. That's true. But the other side of it is that it's a much more fluid way to work within the community. And what I observe is that if teams that are sort of also building trust in their partnerships are building very effective partnerships. So while I haven't looked at specific cases, I would think that these proposals you're referring to that are asking for large sums of money are also pretty strong development teams that are employing a lot of people. You know, it's not as though that funding is going to one person. And then I don't think it's, I'm open to looking at case by case. But I don't have the impression that we have a lot of cases where money is just being thrown out and nothing's being accomplished. But open to evidence that that's not true.
But it's not about that that good things never happen. It's not about that. It's just that there's no process to check it really out consistently and completely. It should not be like. Another
thing, yeah, this is a good point, Zoe, and I'll finish with this comment, is I remember in participating in Fund 3, or maybe, I guess it was 4, that we first had a proposal. There were complaints that at the time, the reporting process was too onerous. And it has gotten simpler, and maybe they've gone overboard with the simplicity of it now. There does seem to be, for instance, I think it was in Fund 6 where you had to actually, they had a report that was called a KPI report. You were supposed to document some factual evidence about what had been accomplished. And I do kind of agree that that was actually a good thing, and I'm surprised that they got rid of it.
Well, they also kept it private. There was none of those reports prior to Fund, I don't know, 7 maybe. Those reports were considered proprietary information to the proposer. So the only ones that got to see it were the IOG people, and they did not, there was no audit. There was no penalty. It was just, okay, having problems.
Well, and this is a good, there is an audit committee that was funded through QA Dow and their work on oversight of governance. So that would be, and if you want to take it further, that would be a good group to talk to about your concerns, because those are the kinds of things that they're trying to take a look at. And it gets to the point that if as a community, we feel that audits of proposals are important, it's a community responsibility that has to be funded through a proposal itself. That's the process. You know, you're right that I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that would be a good proposal to do work on better auditing of projects.
Charles Hoskinson came out a long time ago in his Voltaire and Governance, actually in two different whiteboards, talking about middlemen of value. And his point is that we have to have auditors, and those auditors, that community exists. I'll tell you exactly where they exist: ISO consultants. ISO consultants exist in every country of the world because ISO standards, British standards, are acceptable for quality. And those companies have no skin in the game. They have nothing to do with the project or company that they're auditing. They cost money, sure they do, and the level of effort increases with the value of the project. But he came out a long time ago and suggested that Cardano needs middlemen of value, not middlemen of convenience, which is the intermediaries. And nobody's picked up on it. I've mentioned it several times.
It's not nobody, is what I'm saying, is that there are groups that are doing auditing, and but it comes from community initiative through proposals to do that.
They're not doing auditing because they have no authority to audit. They're not doing auditing. If you want to audit my proposal, if I'm a bad guy, I could say, sorry, what's your right to audit my proposal? I'm doing everything. There is no auditing. There are people who are talking about auditing, but there is no auditing as of Fund 9.
I'll let Nin go.
I'll take a stab at it. You know, from my experience, just being, this is my second round, right? Last round was my first time. And I also thought, oh, Catalyst, free money. And then actually it's not. It's very costly money for people who are like mean serious business, right? Time is huge. Like I have done a lot of 5-6 a.m.s, probably 4 times of them this week, and you know, about 3 to 4 last week and the week before, and it's like that every single week. And keep in mind, I have meetings all day, every day, you know, 8 to 6, and then you know, maybe lunch, breakfast, and dinner, and then back to proposals or do pitches or emails or whatever, right? So time, risk. We have a lot of people on the team that depend on us too, right? And it's balance. It's about, I don't get to spend a ton of time with my wife, right? It's a lot of sacrifice, and that's on the other side, right? I do agree with you, Lynn. There are people that can, you know, do a lot of fakery and put up a really fancy proposal and ask for a bunch of money. And that's the purpose of the CA system. The CA should go and be able to, you know, minimize that risk for the community. No system is perfect. You will have projects that, you know, don't mean to deliver, but will just get funding. But keep in mind, like, Catalyst is an innovation hub, right? If you look at, I'm gonna share some links in the chat. Right? I love data. Data is, you know, you can't really argue with data, right? Because you also said, hey, there's 1,000 projects, only 80 of them closed. Can reap out a good point with Chris, right? There's it's stacked up to now, and of course, like almost every project, including ours, we said we're gonna be launching in June. We have a month delay, right? So we will launch this month instead of last month. but we will deliver on the proposals that got funded. Because I, for once, value my reputation. If you scroll down and to startup failure rates, number 3, success rates, and then failure rates. You know, happy for you guys. Also, the success rate pretty cool to read. Like the successful entrepreneurs have 30% of success rate. People who failed, right, in their previous ventures had 20%. People who've done the first time, it's the number 2 I'm talking about, have like 16 or 18%, right? So projects fail, even they have the best of intentions, right? And that's the reality of just investing in innovation in startups. And overall, I think, I bet that Catalyst will have a massive return on investment just because of the people that are involved, right? In order to really get funded, you have to like hustle all the time. In Fund 8, I did 12 pitches and demos at random times for Eastern Town Hall, this Town Hall, that Town Hall, Catalyst TV, A to Z. Right now, I have like 5 calls scheduled with Catalyst TV again, because, you know, somehow we have more proposals that we want to build and the team is excited to build. So there's a huge cost. Startups do fail, but overall, I think if one day when it's all said and done, you know, and Charles and you and the community will look back on what got funded and what impact we were able to bring, it will be worth it. That's my bet.
Yeah, thank you, Nin. That's a very great example of exactly what I meant with that proposers do have very much to do. You run around and promote it everywhere, and yeah, I mean, you are, I would say, kind of known around and stuff, and yeah, but it's I think that it's still a pressure, and also, I mean, you go for quadratic funding to eliminate that pressure a bit, I guess, and yeah, it's I feel about the auditability that well, I didn't know that the form is that short. I thought it requires a bit more information, but on the other hand, I definitely feel like if some group says, yeah, we're gonna audit proposals, they, as Len said, they don't have that authority, and you can audit good proposals and you can talk with them and make interviews and write articles or make presentations and stuff, but the ones you're concerned about, they wouldn't just talk about something they're obviously scamming on. But then again, I don't feel that Catalyst is so accessible that somebody can just come in and grab money and go away again. It's just not. You have to stay updated all the time, and it can change all the time, and then you again have to read an email or watch a town hall or something. That's much time that is invested.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I agree. I was going to add to it by the following suggestion, that maybe the challenge teams, one of their responsibilities should be to do detailed audits every month as to what the progress is of the funded proposals. And that way, that would be a role that maybe is similar to the way that proposals assessors are doing reviews of the proposals. Perhaps the challenge team should be responsible for doing reviews of the projects. And even if we don't have great ways of well, maybe that would start to get at some accountability, because then you'd have a public independent report that the community would have access to, that's giving an independent review of how much value is being added by this particular project. I also was going to make a couple of announcements. Next week's town hall should be a good place to discuss some of this, because as I understand it, there's going to be a focus on the circle responsibilities, and auditing could be part of not so much what the circle does itself, but what it helps facilitate a structure for. And then secondly, I know you were going back around with the proposals. Next week, my team is planning to present our work here on our Fund 7 project, forecasting Cardano native tokens. And then also that'll lead into kind of what we're doing with SingularityNet and what our current proposal is. So we're planning to host a breakout meeting next week during this Saturday swarm.
If I'm up next, I want to go back to free money. Zoe and Nin, what you talked about, the effort that you have to put in to get money. Do you have to give up equity? Nin, you're a businessman. You know that if you want to get an investment of money, you're going to either a loan from the bank, you're going to have to put up collateral, or an investment from an angel or a VC, you're going to have to give up equity. In Catalyst, it's free money. You don't have to give up anything. And
You're right.
That's not quite true. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to push back. Yes, that's true in private capital markets, but every single government in the world provides grants for all kinds of different projects. All kinds of nonprofit agencies provide grants. And my own company, which I'm running myself, is primarily focused on kind of nonprofit and government grant kind of efforts. And that's why Catalyst was a good fit for us. And the thing is that the model within cryptocurrency is that we're all members of this community by owning ADA. And the point is the community is giving away ADA, yes, but the return is to increase the value of the ecosystem. That's the return.
But I disagree that you're not giving away your ADA as a voter. You're not giving away your ADA. You're giving away the community's ADA. You're right that NGOs give grants, and governments give grants. You're exactly right. I don't know how productive that system is. I worked quite closely with the NGO community, and mostly NGO grants fell by the wayside in terms of performance, because the money went out and then it didn't matter whether the objectives were received or not. And so yeah, I'm talking more from a commercial environment. If you're going to get money, you have to give something, usually equity or collateral. And here you don't.
So thank you, Kenrick. You're right, Len. In private equity and private investment, you do give up equity. But like Kenrick said, there are also grants that actually fund even more than Catalyst, like the National Science Foundation. They have, what is their funding? Usually close to like the whole STTR and SBIR and
yes, the CIBR programs that you're referring to.
Yeah, it's like billions and billions of dollars every year, and
right.
And quite frankly, like you wouldn't know about the ROI because a lot of the work that's being worked on is like super confidential because it's research and so on, right? There's high level scrutiny, right? So in Catalyst, I'd say the CAs probably need a little bit of higher level scrutiny that can be tightened up. You can adjust parameters here and there. But if you are working as a startup in crypto and Web3, community is everything, really, because at some point you want to do a token launch, you want to do ICO or ISPO, whatever, right? You're not giving up equity, you are issuing tokens and utility and empowering a community to get involved. There's many ways to fundraise. It's not just, you know, the traditional, okay, you give me $1 million, I'll give you, for 5% of my company, like Shark Tank, right?
I think the thing to build on that too is that it's a new model that's in between public and private markets. And so that's why a lot of it is quite experimental, and we have to work out, you know, how to improve the experiment. But I think we should be careful about just kind of being flippantly disparaging. Yes, there are issues that need to be improved, but I would be concerned about sort of a tone that's completely negative about what's going on in the Catalyst program.
On the auditing note, I thought there is one thing also what is changing in the Catalyst ecosystem as far as I noticed, and what I'm adopting also is the culture of writing proposals where auditing is built into the proposal, and where you look at the proposal and there you have the deliverables you're gonna reach, the milestones, the checkpoints, and when you do the progress reports, you basically report on the exact same statements and what you have on proposals. This really got clear to me once I noticed Steven Wittenstahl's work with this DOA DAO, where all his proposals are kind of put the way that it reports on itself, like not to report on itself, but if it does the documentation, it already includes the progress reporting, and you can see how proposal is impacting. And I think doing proposals like that, like few times already gives the people who are already here the feeling, okay, what are the deliverables I can show, and really like you basically have like understanding of how to deliver on the proposal you're writing in a way that is clear to the people who vote and assess what's coming out of that. And also then the auditing could be kept very liminal, where the auditing is basically done. But yeah, there should be a body to do that, which we don't really have, but it right now, using the current progress reports and the KPI reports we had at the time, I think it's too messy, too hard to kind of be exact with how to get your funds and where they are going. And regarding of that, I actually created one proposal, also called Innovation Fund Research, which is related to Catalyst. So here also all the videos are the like the deliverables, and I created this like and creating like the allocations for the deliverables, and all who are joining. Well, I have open source like open workshops and stuff, so people, it's easier there. But even then, I think there are ways for private companies and groups to produce like auditable material and already kind of reassess how much that will cost to deliver, including with the solution itself. And the more we do it, like methodically thinking about it, creating these kinds of frameworks and questionnaires and how do you fill up proposals, I think we slowly move towards to kind of making that very efficient for us. As long as we keep it open conversation and allowing people to take positions in auditing or improving these kinds of frameworks.
About the audit thingy again. we assess that for every proposal, auditability. And it says in the proposal, assessor guide, that means you're assessing the information provided. Is it sufficient to audit the progress and the success of the proposal? So that means for me that we already, first of all, get the information from the proposer. How can the community, not some extra auditability body, but the community, how can we have a look at your project and be informed about where you are? And yeah, then we can just do that. And of course, then you still have some, you will always have some wiggle room for bad actors or bad acting or whatnot. But I still would say that it's not easy to just be a bad actor, and to you already need to invest quite some time to find out where you can be a bad actor. And also, what I wanted to throw in is that I feel like Catalyst is not the point of Catalyst. The point of Catalyst is the process on how you make a collective decision for individual interests. And with that, I just want to say it's not the point of Catalyst to just shoot money into somewhere. It's the point that you have something that shoots money into somewhere, and you want to govern that collectively. And that's Catalyst. And it works because everybody's obviously interested in money, because you want to distribute that. And then obviously everybody wants it to be a fair process, a good process. And also a process that is kind of revolutionizing how we think and how we could think. And in the end, I don't see Catalyst as just Catalyst. I see it as a side product, a byproduct of the treasury, or maybe not a byproduct, maybe it's at the end a byproduct, but now it's just a pilot in a smaller scale, which expands into a larger scale. And with that is something very evolved at the end. And we are exactly in that process. And it just works because people are interested in money, and especially interested in distributed fairly. And that's for me already quite a success to see that the fairness is a desire inside the community. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, anybody wants to add on these topics, or should we close up or preparing to close up for today, or at least the recording? I think we had a lot of different discussions to follow, but I think we kind of got closer again. What are the current pain points, which is auditing, of course, a bit of incentivizing commit, like the proposal assessor work, and a lot of proposals which we got out, which is good to have in finalizing stage. But before we go, has anybody done, because now more people here, has anybody done assessing already in these few days, and has some thoughts on how they went, what kind of proposal you assessed?
Yeah, I've started, but what my comment is, takes a lot of work. To do it correctly takes a lot of work.
How much is lot of work? Like 1 hour per proposal, 2 hours?
Maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 hour. You know, it's kind of like focus. If you're going to do it correctly, you have to kind of dig in and think about the what might be missing, unsaid, but was intended. It's not. I mean, in my opinion, to do it honestly or seriously, it can't be like read this and draw a conclusion. For example, there was one proposal that I read, and at first I said, okay, 3-star, 3-star, 3-star. And then I started to think about it more and more and more. And I said, no, maybe it's right. Maybe 4 stars, 4 stars, 4 stars. But my first impression, just kind of like in a casual reading, was I can't say yes, I can't say no. So, I mean, I think if you're serious about it, again, those guys that did 5,000, 2,000, I don't know how they did it through bots or whatever, but yeah, it takes work.
Yeah, Lynn, I'll jump in on that. And great discussion today, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Sure.
you can.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, the amount of time for proposal assessment, I'd keep that timer on 2 30-minute sessions, and I rarely can get one done in under an hour. And then I always go back over for exactly what you mentioned, Lynn, is that sort of like creep. Like once I get to know a project, the initial impressions can sometimes, skew it. And so I always go back and review them, and try to get a fair, assessment. And I'm curious to know, I know we're wrapping up, but I'm curious to hear what everyone else's sort of thought on that is. Or, whoever wants to.
Yeah, no, I
Sorry.
need some time to. Hey, go
what
ahead.
was the topic? I was me and Len are deeply discussing about one of the proposals.
Oh, just talking about proposal assessment and how long it takes, or if you've got tips, or like Lynn mentioned the idea of it, sort of the first impression. And if you get into that, and I think I get into that that habit of like going fast, and the incentive and the money, which I love and hate, or like and dislike, or kind of upset by, and sometimes. But anyway, no. The incentive is to get as many done as possible, and that kind of skews it. But my point is that sometimes I try to go fast, and my first impression is sometimes the wrong impression. And I always like to make, and so the way that I mitigate that is that I always review them and kind of give them a second look before I finalize them.
And a lot of times, new PAs are recently onboarded people that don't have as much experience with community or with what's going on with Catalyst in general.
I don't know. I probably have like the least experience here among all of you, but when I do the CAs, I just try to, I do it in sections, right? The rating is also in sections. So I read impact only the impact portions, feasibility only feasibility portions, auditability. And sometimes when I read more and more, and as I'm processing, it gives me an update on like, okay, maybe I thought something different. Maybe they have covered this later, or maybe they haven't, and it doubled down. But I'm not trying to, I'm trying to maximize for 2 things, right? To really try to help and bridge my expertise to ratings, to help review and score proposals based on like what I think would be successfully delivered and so on, based on guidelines, really. And the second one is also, not to go over maybe an hour per assessment, right? But if there's something that's like has a lot of nuances to it, then I may spend a little bit more time. That's just how I do it. Pro tip: 2 screens helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. So here's a question. Have you ever, and I had to do this a couple of times where I had put in over an hour, maybe even 2 or 3 hours. I went back and back to it and I could not get an assessment and I just had to back off of it. I was like, I'm just not going to assess this.
Oh,
That's
that
the
was
appropriate thing to do. And some people don't,
my fund
Anytime.
7, I think, was like that, or fund 6, where I was like, this is great proposal, I need to assess that. And then after spending like 12 hours reading 6 proposals, I did no assessments because like, it takes so much time to make them excellent or even good, because they were already perfect proposals for me, but I wanted to kind of take it to the next level, at least like give a feedback, how would I evolve even further. But the more I invested time into like learning that proposal myself, I realized how this takes even more time now to assess that. So I basically, okay, I don't have that much time, I'm gonna take another proposal. And that kind of lasted through entire this assessment round, and I did 0 assessments.
Yeah, and one thing I try to always do is even if I rate something 5.55, right, to make sure to have like a suggestion for improvement, at least one, in case they don't get funded, or even if they do get funded, to make sure that it gets delivered successfully, right?
What I find really helpful is just looking over the proposal at first, just so I know how big it is, maybe how many links it contains, how detailed the 3 categories are, and then oh yeah, and before that, I don't start with the proposals. I start with the challenge, and maybe make 3 in 1 or something, or how many I think are cool. And then I keep the challenge, the stuff about an IdeaScale, I keep it open in 1 tab, then the proposal, and then in a 3rd tab, I have the PA guide. And then I can go to the PA guide and have the example given, the impact category open, go back to the proposal, do the impact thingy. And yeah, then category by category. And then also I collect them in a document. That's, yeah, good all the time. And yeah, go back to them. Maybe I do a cohort of assessments. Then the next workload is to maybe make another one. And the 3rd workload will be to go back to the 1st cohort of assessments or something that works best for me. Yeah.
Yes, Len.
Oh, okay. I was muted. Question for everybody. How does the amount of the request affect your assessment?
How much what?
The amount that the proposal is asking for. How does that affect your assessment?
Depends. If I don't vote for proposals that would grab the full amount of the challenge, and when I assess, I don't. It doesn't influence my other points. I wouldn't say this is a trash proposal when it's a good one just because it asked for, I don't know, 10 millions. No, I don't have good numbers. But if it asks for very much, But I would still mention it though. I would still mention it because it's something that's, I feel, is important to the community, that you don't grab the whole bucket.
Well, that's an extreme example where it's a proposal asks for half the budget or whatever. And it's not a question if it's a trash proposal, but how does, let's say there's a decent idea, decent proposal, how do you react to the amount? Like if it's $5,000, do you say, okay, easy? Or if it's $250,000, how does that impact on you?
The way I do it is I look at the budget that they're asking for, whether small or big, look at the plan, how detailed it is. If are they, is the budget justified, right? Or is it just, frivolous? And is there any cheaper way to do this? How much impact that they're trying to accomplish given the budget, right? If a company is asking or project is asking for a lot of money, they better deliver on that impact. Now, we were a first-time proposal last time, and we asked for 202K in funding and got pushed back. Hey, nobody knows you, Nin. Who the heck are you? Why are you asking for this? You can't deliver. And that does happen, right? And I appreciate the feedback and the valuable input, because it was first time for me. I didn't know half the time what the heck I was doing with respect to Catalyst. And I understood because of that, I needed to get more involved in the community, do monthly reports and demos and after town halls, and be more transparent and so on, right? So probably when you are looking at projects that ask more, I would look at, how are they keeping in tabs with the community? Are they transparent about how they're spending the money? How they're handling it? Are they open to scrutiny? Things like that. And of course, return on investment. Is it worth the bet, right? Everything on Catalyst is a bet. Almost everything, right?
But we are not supposed to bet. It's a return on intention. So investments. We're not looking for profits. We're looking for, I don't know, something else which we are figuring out right now. I see something like effort and contribution, but it also has like to what direction. So the purpose, I think, is not clearly defined for everybody, but for me it's collaboration, and the slogan of how to achieve the highest potential of human collaboration that we have in Project Catalyst is the intention. I'm looking for proposals, and that's how I also measure the impact.
Anybody else have their own experience of how the amount impacts on their assessment?
Yes, it's crucial. In my case, I like the opportunities for everyone. I like every person with purpose of contribute to the ecosystem. I think every person should have the opportunity to try and make things in general. Maybe when we spread the budget, we make better opportunities to select the winner horse in general.
Oh, I forgot to add one more thing. traction, right? If there is traction, then, you know, traction.
And then I think also the point that you were making is that observing how things go, people who participate in the community and have proposals, I think have a much better chance of being funded, all things being equal, because the community can have a level of trust. They can establish a level of commitment, personality, trust, whatever. So I think that a key to getting funded is participation in the community, and that's a form of giving. It's giving of time, it's giving of energy. And so, I mean, I think we can all recognize there are people like Kendrick, okay, I'll call you out, who give a lot to the community. And so when he puts a proposal in, I think that people are willing to start from a perspective of, okay, this proposal is probably worth funding. And yourself,
Yeah,
yourself, you know. Same as you, Pivo. You put a lot into the community, and so I don't know. I haven't paid attention if you're having proposals now, but when you do, or if you do, I'm sure people recognize your name, recognize your reputation, and I think the community has talked a lot about reputation without any way to quantify it. Because of issues of anonymity and things like that, but I think reputation probably counts. And then I think you're the most business experienced of us on this meeting, and I'm pretty sure that VCs or investors, commercial investors, pay a lot of attention to the team, meaning the people, not just the idea.
Big time.
People.
Big time. And for example, right, when we went to Consensus, somehow like the whole IOHK team, we have eyes on Snareabilia, right? So there's a lot of pressure. Even Charles knows, the chief legal officer knows, the chief product officer. So, you know, I don't have a choice to fail. You know what I mean? And a lot of families are riding on this. Even the whole Atala Prism, we pushed for publishing on mainnet to secure help from the IOHK legal so that Atala Prism can, you know, resolve its GDPR and CCPA and data privacy so that they can allow projects like ours on mainnet. So we're likely going to be the first commercial partner. But I do fully realize, like, you know, like even with, like, we were selected to be the one out of the 5 companies that participated in SeedStars, right? Finals, pitching investors and so on. I realized that I am taking place of someone who could be there, right? And that is a privilege, not a right. So I'm doing my best, working my hardest, in all the support that we get from not just Catalyst, IOHK, you know, Tim Harris just tweeted, hey, I love what the Snareabilia guys are doing, personal opinion, right? There's a lot of support in the community, and I don't want to let people down. That's not in my nature.
Hey guys, great discussion, but I would like to stop the recording, else this is gonna get very long for the people who will watch it after. So any final words people want to share?
I appreciate everybody's time.
Oh yeah, a lot of effort. This took 2 hours, so most of you probably would have gotten 2 assessments done with that, which is like, if you're good, $200 or maybe $100, but you chose to spend time here. So thank you for joining, and see you around in the community.
Tivo, what happens to the Miro board? Because you put a lot of effort in there. How does that become available to us?
The link is always available, and I will put it into YouTube description. And I don't know, when you want it, just ask in Swarm channels. I have the Discord servers open, or Project Catalyst Discord server. I am active there too. Not in Telegram, so you might have to come aboard.
Can I end with one thing, Tivo?
Yeah.
Yeah, in business, right? It's and also in life, it's just about keeping your words. That's it. That your words mean something, at least to you.
Yeah, you're right.